This is Valerine Kellihano-Niddle. She's in trouble for causing a terrible accident in Hawaii. Valerine was just an ordinary person until May 2009. That's when she did something very wrong. She was driving when she had too much to drink. Her alcohol level was way over the limit. She was speeding and ran a red light. Her truck crashed into a car with Aaliyah Braden and her mom, Maevelyn. It was a really bad crash. Aaliyah died, and her mom was hurt badly. It was a very sad day, and everyone in the courtroom felt it. Aaliyah's dad, Wayne Braden, was there. He missed his daughter a lot and was very upset. Valerine felt really bad too. She admitted she did wrong and said sorry, but she knew she couldn't fix what she had done. But something amazing happened next. Wayne Braden stood up and hugged Valerine. Everyone in the courtroom was crying. It showed how powerful forgiveness can be. Even the judge, Elizabeth Strantz, was moved. Valerine got a 10-year prison sentence for her actions. She also had to pay for the medical bills and funeral. She's trying to make better choices now and help others not make the same mistakes. Sometimes people are surprised when victims or their families forgive the ones who hurt them. Like in the case of Trey Alexander Relford. He was involved in a terrible crime in Kentucky. They were in court because they hurt a pizza delivery driver named Salahuddin Jit Mood in 2015. Salah was killed, and it was a very violent act. Relford admitted he did wrong and said sorry. He faced a harsh punishment, maybe even the death penalty. But Salah's dad did something amazing. He forgave Relford and hugged him. He talked about how forgiveness is important in Islam. The courtroom was filled with emotions. Even the judge was moved. Relford's mom thanked Salah's family for their forgiveness. The prosecutor said that forgiving Relford didn't mean he wasn't responsible for what he did. He was still a big part of the crime. So he got 31 years in prison. Now let's talk about Luis Prinzo. He caused a terrible crash in 2012 while driving under the influence of drugs. It was a bad decision that took the lives of Meredith Smith and another young person, Lane Burnside. Others were hurt too. Meredith had big dreams, but they were crushed because of what Prinzo did. In court, he said he was really sorry and felt guilty every day. He understood the pain he caused. Meredith's dad appreciated the support from the community, but also knew there had to be consequences for what Prinzo did. So, Prinzo got 16 years in prison, with extra probation time and a loss of his driver's license. Lastly, let's talk about Samantha Davis. She caused a tragic accident in 2016 while driving under the influence of drugs. Her truck crashed onto a car, killing 2 innocent people on their way to a graduation ceremony. Samantha admitted to being under the influence and apologized for her actions. The victims' families forgave her, but she still had to go to prison for 8 years. But there was a twist. Samantha's convictions got overturned on a technicality. She faced a new trial, but decided to plead guilty and got 5 years and 4 months in prison. These stories show how powerful forgiveness can be and how people can change, even after doing something very wrong. They also remind us that there are consequences for our actions, but sometimes forgiveness and second chances are possible. I know I made a big mistake, and I take responsibility for it. The families who suffered because of my actions showed great kindness and forgave me. They didn't ask for the harshest punishment, but they trusted the judge to make the right decision. They understood that people can make bad choices, and they'll always remember me in their prayers. However, there still had to be a punishment. When the trial ended, Robert Smith's father thanked the community for their support and acknowledged my apology. He knew accidents happen, but he couldn't ignore the pain his family felt. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict. I was sentenced to 16 years in prison, with an additional 19 years of probation after release. I also had to pay $8,000 in restitution and lose my driver's license for 5 years. My case may have been due to too many drugs in my system, but Eric Windhurst's case in New Hampshire was different. Back in 1985, he committed a terrible crime that went unsolved for many years. It all began when Melanie told him that her mother's ex-husband Daniel was hurting her. Filled with fear for Melanie's safety, Windhurst made a brave but tragic decision. They went to confront Daniel, armed with a gun, and things took a deadly turn. For about 20 years, the case remained unsolved. However, Melanie later confessed to the police about their involvement in the crime. During the hearing, Windhurst spoke slowly, expressing deep regret for his actions. He remembered what happened in 1985 and said, "I am so sorry. There's nothing I can do to change it, but I'm so ashamed of my crime. This guilt will never leave me. I'll never forget what I did, and I'll always try to be a good person, whether I'm in prison or not." Melanie was afraid her abuser would harm her family if he found out she had spoken out. Even so, Windhurst apologized for his actions. He admitted that he should have taken Melanie to the police chief's house instead. In the end, Windhurst pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, hoping his words of remorse would somehow ease the pain he had caused. His attorney, Mark Sist, knew that forgiveness from the Paquette family might be a distant hope. He said, "If you think, even for a moment, that the debt is paid and justice is served, you're wrong. There's only one place for you, and that's back in prison." Windhurst was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 15 years in prison with the possibility of parole. Melanie served 15 months in prison for felony hindering apprehension. But as difficult as you might think Eric Windhurst's case was, it can't compare to the tragic case of Samantha Davis. Samantha faced charges for causing a deadly accident in Cincinnati. She was 32 years old at the time and driving her pickup truck on Interstate 275 in Blue Ash. Took a terrible turn when she lost control of her vehicle while exiting the highway onto I-71. Her truck crashed into a cement barrier so hard that she was thrown from it. Even worse, her truck flipped over the barrier and fell onto a car traveling below on I-71. This tragic accident took the lives of two innocent people: Sabrina Miller, 41 years old, and her mother, Sandra Tell, 67 years old. They were on their way to the University of Cincinnati's graduation ceremony, and the impact of the crash was devastating. What made matters even worse was that Samantha admitted to being under the influence of drugs at the time of the accident. She not only had to live with the guilt of causing such devastation, but also had to face the legal consequences. Samantha faced 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide and 2 counts of aggravated drug possession. During the trial, Samantha, with tears in her eyes, had the chance to speak to the court and apologize for her actions. She said she wanted to apologize to both the victims' families and her own. She recognized the pain and hardships everyone had endured because of the ripple effect of her actions. She knew she couldn't fully understand the pain they felt, but she couldn't stop thinking about it, even though she felt deep regret for her own suffering. In the end, Samantha's actions had caused immense pain, and she was ready to take responsibility for her actions. But she also hoped that one day she could become a better person, whether she was in prison or not. In a very emotional moment, the victim's family accepted Samantha Davis's apology and forgave her. They understood that being a child, no matter the circumstances, can be very painful. They had lost both their mother and their sister, and every day was a struggle. They had to live with the knowledge that they would never get to hold, hug, or hear her say, "Hey, Dad," when she greeted them. One important thing to know is that the victim's family did not hate Samantha. They forgave her, which shows great kindness. However, they also believed that justice needed to be served. They went through many emotions regarding Samantha Davis. They had compassion for her children and her family. They didn't want anyone to go through what Samantha was experiencing. In 2019, Samantha was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison. It seemed like justice had been served. But in 2021, Samantha faced another unexpected turn of events. The First District Court of Appeals overturned her convictions due to a technicality. They found that a crash reconstructionist police officer had given expert opinions during her trial, without providing a written report to the defense beforehand. The court believed this deprived Samantha of effective legal help, leading to the reversal of her convictions. With her convictions thrown out, Samantha had to face a new trial. However, she decided to take a different path. Earlier this month, she accepted a plea agreement in which she pleaded guilty to the charges. Hamilton County Common Pleas Court Judge Leslie Geese upheld the terms of the agreement and sentenced Samantha to 5 years and 4 months in prison. She was given credit for the 43 months she had already served, which meant she would spend an additional 21 months behind bars. If you thought these legal actions were surprising, You'd be amazed by a video showing some of the most unexpected behaviors by convicts in court. As we wrap up these stories from the courtroom, we've seen how forgiveness can shine even in the darkest moments. Samantha Davis's journey reminds us of the strength of the human spirit. We hope these stories touched your heart. Stay tuned for more engaging tales from the legal world. We're so glad you joined us to explore these amazing courtroom stories. If you liked what you saw and learned something new, please click the like button to let us know. Don't miss out on more interesting stories. Subscribe to our channel for more exciting tales and deep discussions.